Hey there everybody, and welcome to the Daily Space Weather Show. We're looking at a 24-hour video here from SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And by the way, thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. This depicts ionized iron, and it is the house favorite wavelength. Let's take a closer look here. We've got some new sunspots that just rose around the eastern limb. This group here in the northwestern limb is degrading a little bit. There still is a fleeting possibility of solar flares up there. There's actually a good chance of large solar flares down here in the southwest, because that group that's southeast of the Earth scale there, which is down and to the left, has gained some magnetic complexity. It is at least a beta gamma class sunspot group. The main story will be two new rising likely sunspot groups there in the east. One of them is just north of the equator. It is already a sunspot, and there is another area there also likely to be a sunspot because it's already produced some flaring. So that is the most active region there, that eastern limb. So once again, possibility of large solar flares both on the eastern and western limbs here at the moment, despite a otherwise general downtick in solar activity. Here are the past, well, it's yesterday plus today. That's August 20th and 21st to date, SDO intensitygram. You can see that new large sunspot there rising on the east. And here is the colorized magnetogram. Again, there's another second group there. Actually, it's to the south of that new sunspot. So we'll have two active regions there on either side of the equator on the east. Let's take a moment to look at volcanic activity here before we continue on. Mount Mayan is producing a 9,000-foot ash plume over Luzon Island, Philippines. Bagana exploding, flight level 080. It's an 8,000-foot ash plume over Bougainville Island, Papua New Guinea. Popocatépetl has dispersed its volcanic ash over central Mexico, fertilizing the ground and calming down. Fuego in Guatemala exploding, flight level 160. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, flight level 210. Revenador has dispersed its ash, and Sabancaya in Peru continues to explode and produce a 22,000-foot ash plume. It's a flight level 220 over Peru. Next, looking at earthquakes over the past 90 days first. We are moving into a bit of a 7-magnitude earthquake drought. As you can see from the 90-day graph here, it's been a while since a 7+ magnitude earthquake. Looks like July 16th or so we had one. Interestingly enough, we had a 5.1 in California here, right in the Sulphur Mountains, south of Ojai, and north of Ventura, California. There's the location of that quake. That 5.1 coming in at 21:41 Universal Time yesterday evening. So we'll call out the quakes of 5 or greater magnitude. Some activity there on Hawaii as well. No major quakes there, though. Likely magma moving around. And the largest quake of the past 24 was a 5.7 at the South Sandwich Islands region. That was at 1959 Universal Time yesterday evening. And then again, that at 21:41, that 5.1 strikes Ojai, California. And beyond that, only two 5 or greater magnitude earthquakes so far until a 5.5 hits Ecuador. That was early this morning at 5:24 Universal Time. It was at some depth there, 60.5 kilometers, and that rounds out our earthquake list. So headed back to space here, there is the past 24 hours in ionized helium from SDO. That's 304 angstroms. One of the classic wavelengths. And again, we do have the possibility of flares on both the eastern and western limb. Another important story to cover here is filaments. So they might not stand out that well in just 304 angstroms, so why not add 193 angstroms? There's a little additional contrast. You can see several layers of large plasma filaments down here. Crown prominence up here, some crown prominence down here. Huge, very dense filament right here, moving into the western longitudinal region there. So lots of filaments indeed. As far as space weather stats go, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux has dipped once again down to 146 solar flux units. There is the 1-year graph to put it in context. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux is this black line. 146 solar flux units is the new state of the radio output of the closest star. The red line below it is a sunspot number, and you'll be able to see how proportional those are. If you look at the graph, you see each trough is represented by a trough in the radio flux as well as the sunspot number. They are proportional data sets. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here, not forecasting any sort of geomagnetic storms or geomagnetic unrest in the coming days. We have had quite an elevated solar wind. I saw it as high as 670 kilometers per second. We'll get to that here momentarily. Let's take a look at Earth's magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours. So that is our Geospace Magnetosphere movie. We do show it daily on the channel. And things are quite chill here. Despite that high-speed solar wind, it's quite diffuse. So not creating a lot of magnetohydrodynamic pressure, at least over the past 4 hours. And let's take a look at Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. This will show you the most likely places to see the aurora, pipeline, railway, and power grid induction. Also show on this map. It'll show you the most likely places to see telluric currents coming out of the Earth as it tries to reach static equilibrium. That's the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground in magnetic flux density, or nanotesla. KP index currently at 3. KP3 is the current planetary K index. If you're new to these stats, that is an average of global geomagnetism. Next, we'll go out to Lagrangian point 1, where the real-time solar wind is measured, also where the SOHO spacecraft is located. But ACE and Discover are the ones responsible for the real-time solar wind. And at the moment, we've got the ACE. Like I said, we got all the way up to, we got to 680 kilometers per second, a very fast solar wind there. However, the solar wind density here, quite low. So it's fast but diffuse, folks. So we're at about 1.5 protons per cubic centimeter only for the solar wind density, very diffuse. Solar wind speed here, 640 kilometers per second, very fast. Besides that, that's fairly unremarkable. It's another coronal hole high-speed stream. Let's take a look at the GOES magnetometers next. No major perturbations on those. No major variations in the solar wind to cause those perturbations. The GOES magnetometers are located in a geosynchronous near equatorial orbit on the GOES 16 and GOES 18. Those N's and M's at the top of the graph, those stand for midnight and noon local time for the satellites to tell you where they're located, conveniently right there on the graph. Next, our our top view ecliptic plane field plot. It is I can't stress how important this one is, folks. If you understand this one, you can forecast on another level. The top view ecliptic plane field plot, it shows us the polarity of the heliospheric current sheet. So Earth is just snapping into a south pole current sheet as we create the video. Keep in mind that data is, when we made the video here, it's only 1 hour and 30 minutes old. So Earth might already be in a south pole current sheet. There's the south pole current sheet depicted in red. Just about to leave the north pole current sheet, or in the process of snapping into the south pole current sheet here at the moment. So that's the situation for the line of sight field plot. Here is our, this is the line of sight field plot. That was a top view ecliptic plane field plot. And here the sun's B field is depicted in blue. So this is the toroidal field that people are constantly talking about. You know, they think that the solar B field is donut shaped, and it is at solar minimum. However, at solar maximum, it's not donut shaped at all. It's very lumpy as the solar polar field reversal process happens. Solar B field here depicted in blue. It's kind of like a net product of the north and south polar field interactions. The extent to which they overlap is the B field. The north polar field here depicted in green, south polar field in red. Finally, our line-of-sight coronal hole plot. We've got some pretty well-defined North Pole coronal holes here, just moving past the Earth's strike zone there. And let's take a look at that from SDO's perspective. And there's the past 24 hours in SDO 211 angstroms. Probably the top single wavelength to view coronal holes. So those ones in the southern hemisphere that you see there, those are of North Pole orientation. Now that we've done coronal holes, it's time to go to sunspots. Yeah, sunspots. So let's see what's happening from the Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center. Here's what's going on over there. Likelihood of solar flares goes way up here. Partially because of sunspot 3407. That one is quite magnetically complex. Also, these groups in the northwest can produce flares. However, the most likely place for flares now is over here on the eastern limb. So this new group here, that'll be 3413, I think, will be that group. And let's take a closer look here. There is the SDO continuum for the past approximately 24 hours. Looks like no major changes going on there. And next we'll cover energetic particles. We don't see any. The GOES proton flux here is flatlined. So no spikes in the measurements by the GOES 16 there. The X-ray flux here has come up a little bit, probably from the rising of those new spots in the east. Largest flare of the past 24 hours was a C4.35. Let's take a look at flaring. There is 131 angstroms. Another 24-hour video depicting ionized iron from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And we'll get a little closer here. There's the equatorial zoom. And we'll switch that to 94 angstroms. There's 94 from the AIA instrument. And this is the real place to watch for solar flares. That eastern limb, that new sunspot, as well as this new active region rising to its south. So that has now become the most likely place to see a large solar flare. Here it is in 131 angstroms. And we remind our viewers to look up. Don't forget to look up, folks, and when you're staring into the sun, make sure you use our channel. Next, a star chart. This is what's going on overhead Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Saturn is setting just south of the western ecliptic over there, and Venus has just risen here ahead of the sun. So the third brightest object there, now visible also south of the eastern ecliptic. The brightest star also visible there in the southeast, Sirius, and Jupiter is high in the sky currently. So that's our current star chart. Here is our solar system forecast from theplanetstoday.com. Right now we've got a crescent waxing moon. We'll advance this 1 week. We will have a gibbous waxing moon by the 28th. August, a blue moon month. And let's take a look at Galaxy Zoo. We're going to classify a galaxy real quick here. This is a smooth one. In fact, that might even be an artifact or a star, but let's just say it's not completely round. I don't see a disturbance there. We'll say it's irregular. There may be some overlap. And there you go. Galaxy classified at zooniverse.org. Yeah, zooniverse.org, the world's largest citizen science project. We need humans to classify galaxies. And let's look at the astronomy picture of the day now that we've covered that. Zooniverse.org, folks. Here's the astronomy picture of the day. It is a new comet recently discovered, expected to possibly break up as it gets quite close to the sun inside of Mercury's orbit. We're expecting that to become possibly visible to the naked eye in September. So this one's known as C/2023 P1 Nishimura. Great 30-second exposure there of a newly discovered comet. apod.nasa.gov if you'd like that for your computer desktop or something. Next we'll go to coronagraphs. And we'll skip the George Mason University section because we've seen 3 days here with no coronagraph imagery from there. And we've got some missing data from the Soho Lascaux C3 also. So let's take a look at stereo A next. And we show this imagery here to show you where stereo A is located. It's practically right in between the Earth and Sun at the moment. It also shows Solar Orbiter, the Parker Solar Probe, Bepi Colombo, Mercury, and Mars on that image. Here's stereo A's difference imagery. And that is somewhat up to date there. So quite low activity as far as CMEs over the past 24 hours, which starts right in here. Very low activity. Almost no coronal mass ejections. Just minor outflows here since yesterday. Here's the rest of the data that we have here. And again, unfortunately, Lascaux C3, not too bad. A little bit on the old side there. Bunch of missing data there on Lascaux C3. Lascaux C2, completely not up to date. So, but we don't see any CMEs there on stereo A, so it's fairly safe to assume that there's nothing earthly directed at the moment. So before we get to plasma filaments, let's take a look at the closest star here in 193 angstroms. There is SDO for the past 24 hours and 193. And again, plasma filaments, big time. So the majority of them are down here in the southern hemisphere, this area right in here. A ton of plasma filaments there. Very, very large ones. There is a lot of plasma pointed at the Earth at the moment here, so the likelihood of coronal mass ejections remains nearly 100% for the coming days. Here's the equatorial zoom, and you may see a huge filament here. This is one of the most dense ones we've seen for quite a long time. So lots of filaments here, including some rising above the eastern limb there. Also a crown prominence hanging out there around the North Polar region. So filaments, filaments, filaments remain the story. And we've seen an underperformance of coronal mass ejections, frankly. So here are filaments from Lermonth, Australia. And you can see 1, 2, 3, many filaments down there. I mean, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. This very dense one up here, that would be 5. So 5 filaments could get names here. And you can also see prominences when we pull up the grayscale imagery. So major filaments there, especially on the western portion of the Earth-facing solar disk. So we've got 5 quality filaments that we could name. If you want to name them after living people, join us over on Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter account, why not create one? It's where most of our social media interaction happens. Twitter.com/smashomash is the location. Here are the past couple of hours from the GOES 16 SUVI station. And here is station identification. Welcome to the Smash News Network. Thanks for tuning in to the least busted name in news. That's the past about 2.5 hours there. And again, you can see some flaring continuing over there on the eastern limb. Expected to continue, indeed. That brings us to bonus features, starting out with satellite charging hazards. And we do have some significant surface charging hazards happening here over Mexico and the eastern Pacific. Those are significant surface charging hazards. Quite a few electrons here are building up on the outside of spacecraft. It could cause some minor communications breakdowns, not likely any internal circuitry problems, as there are no internal charging hazards caused by high energy electrons, just the low energy type on the outside there, moving into the eastern Pacific, currently over Mexico. GOES electron flux here remains quite low. We're expecting a large uptick. Before we show that, here is the 1-year graph of the relativistic electrons, and here is the forecast. So NOAA expecting a big uptick here in the electron flux. We will go back into warning levels here likely in the coming 2 days. The green boxes are the forecast, the yellow diamonds are the observation. Next we'll show the layer of the ionosphere where that's measured, the F layer, one slice of the atmosphere in vibrational frequency. Here it is. And we are seeing some anomalies here in the eastern Pacific. And if that's all Greek to you, don't worry. We'll show the anomalygram as well. So there's the raw vibrational frequency. And here's the anomalygram, depicting anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. So, of course, around South America is the most common place to see anomalies, but we're seeing some rather enduring low-frequency anomalies happening there over North America and the East Pacific. Anyway, here's the latest image. This is 10:15 universal time for the ionogram and 10:15 universal time for the anomalygram. Next we'll show total electron content. That's free electrons to about 12,500 miles of altitude. The location of your GPS satellite, here's the globe view. These are the most likely places to see GPS errors. We'll let that play through one more time in its entirety, and then we'll show the North American electron content anomaly. So here's the anomaly from the 10-day average over North America. Those blue regions are low electron counts. The red regions are high electron counts. And let's close out the space weather portion of the video with the latest intensitygram, as we do, and the latest magnetogram. So this sunspot group down here, it is fairly magnetically complex. You could make the argument that that is beta gamma delta class, so it does have an increasing likelihood of solar flares as it approaches the limb. This group up here, not so magnetically complex. This group over here, not that magnetically complex. It's barely a beta gamma class sunspot group there. In fact, I believe it is an alpha class sunspot. That is an alpha class sunspot. We only see North Pole umbrae there, so there may be some trailing umbrae behind it. And again, it looks like there's another active region rising to its south, not yet visible on the imagery. Here is your full disk rockback. And let's move to meteorology. By the way, Hurricane Hillary has broken to bits. It has shattered into just a series of fleeting low pressure zones. We'll get to it. First, we'll chase the world's largest waves, which are currently in the Southern Ocean here, south of Western Australia there. So some nearly 42-foot waves down there. Those are by far the world's largest waves. I am a wave chaser, so this stuff is relevant to me. So here is the situation for surface winds and ocean waves. Let's switch to the air portion. There is the surface wind scenario by itself for the eastern world. Here are the jet streams. Doubled up jet stream over Australia, quite coherent there. Here is the jet stream scenario for the central world. Here is the surface wind scenario. Surface winds for the west. Barely even a blip on the map there where there used to be a hurricane. There is no such hurricane anymore. It broke up promptly. And there is the jet stream map. Upper level anticyclone here, right over the central U.S. That is an upper level high of highs. Major clockwise rotation there. Anticyclone, right over the central U.S. So here's the pressure environment. And you can see, like I said, that the main low here is in central Nevada. However, that whole area is a series of broken up lows. And you can expect to see not a lot of droughts currently. Also, if we take a look at rain accumulation, it's pretty moist, especially in Southern California. So here is our clouds and fog map. Clouds and fog over the Americas, folks. It's too dark for the visible satellite, but the 3.9 micrometer infrared radiation, the shortwave radiation map on the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite is pretty sweet. And we do have a strong low here building south of Puerto Rico. So this is going to cross the Isle of Hispaniola here, made up of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We'll show you some forecasts on that in a minute. First, our weather.gov map, the home page of the National Weather Service, weather.gov. See major flash flood warnings there, and heat warnings over the central U.S. underneath that high pressure area. So there you go. If your location's lit, head to weather.gov and click your location and check it out. These are the 72-hour GFS total accumulated precipitation forecast. Some heavy rains coming to southern Texas. And of course, you can see quite a lot of rain accumulation here happening in portions of Oregon and Idaho, also Nevada, and of course, California. Please heed those warnings. Don't drive through floodwaters. Here is your pressure and precipitation forecasts for the next 72 hours. Again, the GFS model. Rains here will subside rather promptly. Here is the jet stream forecast. Again, that's 72-hour GFS jet stream forecast, 250 millibar winds. Here is temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius. It's going to stay very hot over places like Iowa, Nebraska, southern Minnesota, and eastern South Dakota. Last but not least, we're going to show the Atlantic Ocean. Here is the 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast for the Atlantic, because we've got 3 lows there. And again, this one is going to make a move to the northeast in the coming 3 days. We'll keep you posted on those lows. And next, let's look at lightning. So there's your lightning map. Quite a bit of lightning in the Gulf and over Mexico and Central America. Not a lot over the U.S., mainly in Arizona and Utah. Here's a real-time lightning map. Do we have any terrestrial strikes? Let's see. Lightningmaps.org should let us know. We did have one lightning strike there. near the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. It's highly recommended. Today's featured product, by the way, is the Galactic Federation Special Forces. So we say to you, Universum Liberate. Because if I could wave my magic wand, to quote Geddy Lee, I'd set everybody free. Maybe that's too reckless for you, but hey, what can I say? I'm a free speech purist. And I'm against all the pathetic, ridiculous, disgusting, un-American, and frankly evil censorship, which, by the way, misleads investors, which, by the way, is still illegal. I know, laws. Who enforces laws? What is up with that? Laws being enforced? Accountability for thee, not accountability for me, said every incompetent bureaucrat in human history. So I say to you, Universum Liberate. If it looks like a unit patch, it's because it is the unit patch for the Galactic Federation Special Forces. The symbolism represents signal integrity and security. It also represents instantaneous galactic scale reach and the galaxy itself. The Galactic Federation. Join it by picking up some merch. The Galactic Federation Special Forces. If you enjoy the content, press like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, congratulations on realizing it exists. Frankly, we're surprised that you have. Did you know that our thumbnails contain more relevant and valid information than some entire disinformation channels on the platform? I'm not suggesting you don't watch them, because they certainly have comedic value as they talk utter nonsense about space weather, cosmology, and more. However, we are a fact-based channel. We don't bring propaganda, dogma, and we're not forming a cult, building a school, or doing any other nonsense like that. We're just citing facts, which is probably why we still haven't reached 4,000 subscribers. So press like, subscribe, and share, etc. And if you don't like it, press unsubscribe and leave a derogatory comment. It won't hurt our feelings. Today's featured product on the Amazon shop is magnesium. Now, it makes me drowsy. I'm not suggesting take it as a sleeping pill. In fact, I'm not making any claims about what it does. However, what it's often used for is things like bone and muscle health. I take it before bed. Don't take it with calcium, as they'll act like co-antagonists and cancel out each other's benefits. I like to take magnesium and zinc every other night before bed. Maybe you want to try it. Again, magnesium makes me drowsy, but I'm super sensitive, being the athlete that I am. Today's featured product on the Hemp Lucid shop, and by the way, that's at amazon.com/shop/smashomash. Today's featured product from Hemp Lucid is the Focus Mushroom Gummies, which contain some aminos like L-tyrosine and L-theanine, also caffeine from green coffee extract, also lion's mane mushrooms in there, and some other type products. So check those out if you haven't tried them. The Focus Mushroom Gummies, I use them on the regs. Links to the Hemp Lucid shop below the video, as well as on the homepage at smashomash.com. If you want to support the channel financially, which we need your help, by the way, smashomash.com/smashteam is the place to do that. There's a bronze level, which will cost you $0 per month. You can sign up for email alerts at all levels. Bronze level is $0 a month. Silver is $2.99 a month. Gold is $9.99 a month. However, the best value is the gold annual paid-up subscription. That's almost like getting 4 months free, as it includes complimentary merch. Smashomash.com/smashteam. We've even explained the likely mechanism underlying the solar sunspot cycles to our gold Smash Team members. You can sign up for 1 month and even get an @smashomash.com email address. Most first names still not taken. Links on the homepage. And welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. We built smashomash.com and the massive web ring around it for people like you. So use things like the forum. You can host stuff there. Again, we're free speech purists, not free speech phonies. We encourage all legal speech. And let's close this thing out with U.S. Doppler Radar. There is the full 50-state view. We'll focus on the lower 48 view. Here is clouds and fog for that same area. And let's don't forget water vapor. You can see the way the jet stream is staying to the north of the U.S. here, and we've got dry, massive air over most of the central southern portion of the country. Clear skies, very likely over places like Kansas at the moment, as there is dry, massive air overhead. Lots of nitrogen there, and a bit of a shortage of atmospheric water vapor. Here's a recap. As that system has turned due north. And it's moved quite quickly since yesterday. Here's once again clouds and fog over the lower 48. And the water vapor map is great if your Doppler is looking unclear. So that's the situation. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Weather Station, where we bring your space weather and Earth weather together. Once again, congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Thanks to our loyal viewers. Thanks to our friends, foes, and neutrals. We'll see you soon. In the meantime, I'll have been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back.